Hello, welcome back to KXAN Live. I'm your host, Esmeralda Zamora, and this morning we have our Space episode with KXAN's Eric Henriksen. Eric, thanks for joining us. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing excellent. I think it's a beautiful day out, and I don't think it's terrible by any stretch of the imagination. In a good mood, working on some projects, moving some stuff around, busy. But yeah, and we got a fun story today, and we get to talk about an amazing kid. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, this is an amazing story. She's doing a lot of amazing things that I probably couldn't have done at her age. It's great to see these kids moving on so quickly on what they're interested in.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, like, I think I'm a pretty well motivated person, but one of the great parts about this job is you get to meet a lot of kids, a lot of students who are high school, younger. I've met like a lot of college age kids who are literally building these rockets into space.
Yeah.
And they're doing these amazing things. I was going back through some old stories I did, and I remembered I spoke to these students 2 years ago who were building rockets, and they're college kids, and they were full-size NASA-style rockets. It's amazing. I have a cool story I'm doing later this week. Also students, also doing something amazing. I'm excited to share that, but you'll have to wait till Friday for that. So Friday. But this one's really fun. Yeah, we're looking at a STEM program and a local student who's a semifinalist.
So what goes with this STEM program? What is she focusing on, and what does she have to enter in to compete in this?
So this is a NASA challenge with future engineers, and this is one of their other STEM programs that focuses on rockets. Unfortunately, this STEM program we're talking about today is an essay contest, and that's kind of boring for video, but that's some rockets. So there's a student launch, similar to a lot of STEM programs NASA puts out. But this one was called the Power to Explore Challenge, and what it was done with was Future Engineers, which is a nonprofit that helps present these challenges. And this one focused on asking students to plan a trip to one of the hundreds of moons in our solar system. Between 300 and 400 moons are out there in our solar system. Earth has one major moon, but we also have a lot of tiny minor moons that form that orbit around us. And other planets have dozens and hundreds of moons. Jupiter, Saturn have massive amounts of moons, but larger ones. And they get to plan a trip to one of these larger moons, one of these smaller moons if they want, and then design the mission. And one of the keys is they're looking at, I'm gonna mess this up, but it's basically like a different type of nuclear power. I want to say it's radioisotope power system, something like that. I don't know. The girl who won, who's a semifinalist in this contest, Anika, she said it a dozen times, and every time she would say it, I was trying to, rethink it. But what the whole point of this particular Power to Explore challenge, plan a trip to the moon, but also think about how do you power a trip to one of these moons, and how do you get this mission going using what they're looking at as kind of a nuclear reactor kind of thing. And so we spoke to one student. She's from Pflugerville. Her name is Anika. And she wrote this lovely essay to get into this challenge. And she's a semifinalist. She's one of the semifinalists in the K through 4th group. And then there's also a middle school challenge and then a high school challenge. And they're all asked the same kind of things. And then there's 2 winners selected from each challenge, 2 finalists. But she's a semifinalist. So we're excited to see what happens with her. But we actually she read her whole essay to me. Mm-hmm. And I thought it'd be great to share that essay with you.
Yeah, let's listen to it.
Explore future of life on Titan. I want to explore Saturn's largest moon, Titan. In case a huge comet could crash into Earth, we may need a new home, and Titan might be an option. It is the only moon that has bodies of liquid on its surface, just like Earth. Titan has a thick atmosphere with nitrogen and methane, which protects it from harmful solar radiation. Also, Titan is very cold, about negative 290 degrees Fahrenheit, that turns methane into liquid and forms lakes. Another cool fact is that flying is easier on Titan because of the thick air and low gravity. I want to send mission Titania to Titan using radioisotope power systems, RPS, to help spacecraft explore for a long time in extreme cold and dark atmosphere. Since Titan is far from the sun, I will use plutonium as power source that will last for many years. RPS will help Titania to search for frozen water across Titan's largest lake, Kraken Mare, to explore for signs of water in lakes across multiple weather seasons. It will be cool to land Titania, the first ever drone in the liquid lake on a faraway planet for the first time, splash down possible due to low gravity on Titan. I believe my superpower is imagination. I can bring new ideas for designing the Titania basic prototype, like a mini drone that can fly with a camera to take pictures and a parachute to land safely on methane lakes. NASA is sending Dragonfly mission exploring Titan in 2028, which will take about 7 years to travel to Titan. By then, I hope to be closer to working for NASA.
Wow, she has clearly had her mind made up. She knows what she wants to do,
Yep.
and she knows what it takes to do it.
She's super cool. She wants to, when she grows up, she wants to go get her doctorate and work for NASA and be an astronaut eventually.
She will do it. I bet she will.
Man, she said some stuff in that essay that was much smarter than things I can think of. It's amazing. She's 9 years old. She's finishing the 3rd grade right now. She's about to enter 4th grade. Very, very cool. Very cool.
She's from Round Rock, right?
Pflugerville. The corner. I don't always mess up in my head, but yeah, up north, up in the northern Austin, just north of Austin, Pflugerville. Sometimes I have one friend who lives in the area, and we always call it South Dallas because of the drive. But no, Pflugerville, it's a lovely place, and I was there yesterday, and yeah, she lives in that area, and fun kid. And there's actually 2 semifinalists. I didn't get to interview the other one, but Anika was one of the 2 semifinalists in our area, which is pretty cool.
We've got some brilliant kids up in this Austin area.
Truly brilliant kids.
And what else did she have to submit to be a semifinalist?
So she also did a sketch of her drone. Now, I think we'll take a look at that in a minute here after our break, right?
Yeah, we'll be right back after this break. And we're back, Eric, and you just mentioned that she also had to draw up a sketch of her idea. What did that include?
Yeah, so Anika is one of the semifinalists for the Power to Explore Challenge, and part of that was writing an essay, and part of that was doing a sketch of this ship she plans, this mission to her favorite moon, Titan, and they have to come up with a power source and using nuclear power to power these sources. They wrote that up in an essay, which we just showed you, and then she also drew it up. So she walked me through her drawing. And this is the full clip, unedited. It's just her showing me it, and I think it's really fun. So check it out.
Let's watch it.
I think I forgot to fix my spellings, but this is the parachute. So this is under the lake, the methane lake. So this is the parachute, this is the camera, and these are the fans for landing, like to control it, kind of. And then this is a propeller to move in the water when it's landing in there. It's gonna come out and it's just gonna move in the water. So these arrow means like it's gonna come down. Then when it gets on the land, it's gonna go back up. And then there's a light and a camera to take pictures of the methane lakes under. And this is on the surface. When it's on the surface, and this is the parachute again, the camera, the fans again, and then this is it's to stay stable because it's holding this much weight, then it needs something to stay stable. And so it's stabilization wheels, a camera again, and tires.
Wow, she thought of everything.
She really did.
She needed that extra stabilization. I hope her parents frame that diagram that she drew for her when she gets older, because that's amazing.
Absolutely. They absolutely should. I got to meet her parents, and they were super, super nice and super happy to see their daughter succeed in this way. If she wins the challenge, this contest through NASA and Future Engineers called the Power to Explore Challenge, she'll get to take a trip to the Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, the NASA's Glenn Research Center in Cleveland. They're going to send 2 finalists or 2 winners to that trip, and then she got a little packet from NASA for being a semifinalist. There's some other prizes they went along the way.
That's
but
awesome.
pretty cool stuff that she's doing, and a pretty cool contest that they're going to do. And this is one of dozens of challenges every year that NASA does as part of their STEM outreach, and they find it extremely important to do these kind of programs to both provide STEM and STEAM education in schools, but also to inspire future astronauts and engineers to come work for NASA.
Yeah, to learn what it takes to work for NASA and try participating in these projects that are just one part of what the requirement is to actually work for NASA. You
got to learn how to build a spaceship that goes to Titan if you're going to work in NASA. And I think that's a big part of it is this way that they can kind of think about new kids through these STEM outreach programs are allowed to find ways to imagine and generate new ideas and approach challenges in a different way. So it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Now, let's talk about the funding that goes with these programs and these challenges that NASA puts out.
So NASA has a budget for STEM outreach, and so they have a group that works on these things specifically, and they kind of plan their year around this. And one thing they do is by working with groups like Future Engineers, NASA told me that they're able to kind of offset some of the costs of these programs that would typically accrue over time. So we're working with these nonprofits, these smaller groups, and letting them handle like the logistics, and NASA kind of works as the backup. They're able to do this STEM outreach for much cheaper. Currently, the budget for NASA for 2025 is around $25 billion. STEM outreach is 145 million. It's like 144 point something, 756, something like that. But about 145 million dollars. So a very, very small portion. Most of their money goes to the sciences, right? But this small portion allows them to both educate the public, but also encourage future engineers. Again, this is just one of their STEM outreach programs here of just rocket launches. They do dozens of these sort of programs all the time. This Future Engineers, they had, I think it was 3 or 4. I wrote a couple stories about it over the years of these different outreach programs. This is the Power to Explore Challenge is just one of those programs they're looking at. I did get to speak with NASA and ask them about the importance of doing these outreach programs and why they do it. And I think we can show that right now.
We believe at NASA that these competitions are very significant. It helps to inspire the kids to do things that may be just a little bit extra rather than just doing what's expected and required of them. So giving some kind of an incentive, we think is something that would maybe engage people who wouldn't have otherwise considered doing something like this. And then we have actually had some students come back to us after doing the contest and some even winning the contest and saying that they weren't considering a STEM career, but now they're going into engineering. And it's just exposing kids to the possibility that you could actually do this. And we would like them to come join us someday to help solve our problems and make the world a better place.
That was NASA Public Affairs Officer Kristen Jansen, who I spoke with on Friday. And I kind of got to ask her about these programs, the importance of these programs, but also budget. And by the way, I did, my dyslexia kicked in. 145 million, 143 million. So 143.5 as opposed to 145.3. So flip-flop that, but still not very much in the scheme of things for these budgets.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk more about the budget behind these programs when we come back after this break. We'll be right back. And we're back, Eric. Talk to us a little bit more about what goes into the funding behind all of these projects and these challenges and these competitions.
So every year NASA puts forth a budget to the federal government saying how much they're going to spend. The last 3 budgets, 23, 24, and 25, the money for STEM outreach hasn't changed. It's been $143.5 million for every single one of those budgets. Now, this year, budget cuts could be coming. There's been rumors for a long time that NASA was facing these cuts similar to a lot of the federal government. And then last week, a preliminary budget came out from President Trump's office that looked at a 20% cut across the board to all of NASA's budget, and then a 50% cut to the sciences budget. And the sciences includes satellite imagery, telescopes, the things that kind of manage those, things like the James Webb Space Telescope or the Hubble Space Telescope, those kind of budgets. Those are the largest budgets, by the way, for NASA. But they're looking at a 20% cut across the board, so that's taking it from the $25 billion they yearly get to $20 billion, which is a pretty significant cut. And that could impact things like STEM outreach. I mean, a large cut like that. Now, like I mentioned before, Kristen told me that STEM outreach is kind of done a lot of times through these private companies that allows them to reduce the cost on NASA. So they're able to kind of do workarounds and make sure that these programs are still happening. But they're looking at big cuts across the board. Elon Musk tweeted after the news came out that the reports were troubling. Obviously, he has a lot of ties with NASA through SpaceX. And so that's just one thing to note, that there is talks that this budget could be decreased and these programs could get impacted. They may not, but they could be. I mean, 20% cut across the board. They could see a 20% cut on their end as well. Or, they could move some numbers around and take that 20% somewhere else. But it's $143 million out of the $25 billion budget. There's a chance it could get cut, and then it could mean less STEM programs across the board.
Now, Eric, I'm not sure if you know, but is NASA the only entity that offers these types of STEM program challenges?
They are not the only ones. There's a lot of nonprofits that do similar. I know we covered a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. There was a STEM lab that was a nonprofit that traveled through the area and stopped at a school and offered like STEM training. And then on the state level, some state programs do exist. There's been robotics challenges that I've seen. My favorite one is they do build robots out of Legos, and that's done at a lot of schools in Texas, and they have robotics challenges. There's the Robotic World League, Soccer League. It's a robot soccer league, and that's another one where it's a STEM challenge where they task students, usually college students at that point, to build robots to play soccer. But the whole idea is it develops new ways of doing robotics. So there's a lot of different STEM programs out there. NASA is just one of the providers of these, but obviously they're a major provider of them. They're NASA. That's, they're ubiquitous, especially here in Texas where we have Houston, where they play a major role. And across the state, we have a lot of space research done here in Austin. Obviously, at places like SpaceX, Firefly Aerospace, and at UT. UT has a space research center. Texas A&M is working on their own space research center. It's going to be built at Johnson in Houston, and they have a lot of programs and a lot of training happening there. So there's a lot of space stuff happening in Texas. Texas is kind of one of the homes of space. We have the Texas Space Commission. We're a busy space state, so NASA plays a major role here. So we play a lot of ball with NASA and STEM. They do a lot of STEM outreach in our area, but across the country. So they're just one of the major players, if not the major player. I wouldn't say the major player. I won't say that, but they're definitely one of the major players. I'll keep it a little more vague. How about that?
Yeah. So when will we be hearing any updates as far as the funding for these programs? So
the way the budget was, the preliminary budget was leaked last Friday. Ars Technica reported it. They got a hold of the budget. And then The Hill, which is a partner with KXAN and Nexstar Media, they took that information and got more information about it. So the way that budget worked is a preliminary budget, and there's actually a term for it. I want to say like pushback. Pass back, I think is what it is. But the way it works is it goes to different people, they get a look at it, then it goes back, and then it goes back and forth. And usually it's about 3 days after review, so maybe this week we'll find out more. Nothing is out yet, but we'll find out probably soon. The cuts that are happening in the federal government have been pretty regular and pretty consistent over the last 90 days. And these are just the next round, and it shouldn't surprise anyone there's more coming.
There is, and we do have that article that you wrote up on our website, kxn.com. If anyone wants to read more on Annika's story, all those details are in there from the interview that you had with her, as well as some video from your story and more links and details, right?
Correct, yeah, and I have stuff towards future engineers. So there was dozens of entries from young scientists in the making, and you can check those out and read every one of them, including our other student in Texas, or in the Pflugerville area, who was a semifinalist. And there's also several students from Texas. So if you want to know if it's about all of our Texas ties to this particular STEM program, it's a great way to do that. Get in there and read all those fabulous essays by these young students.
Yes, that's on our homepage, kxan.com. Now, Eric, what is next for Annika?
Next, there is, I wrote the dates down. Do I have them on here? Okay, yeah. April 23rd, the finalists will be announced. So that'll come from NASA and Future Engineers. And the winner will be announced on May 7th. So we'll know more by then. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Let's get in her corner.
Yeah, we're supporting our local North Austin children that are out there competing for us.
There we go.
Thanks so much, Eric.
Thank you so much.